everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. So today, we're going to be exploring a pretty interesting question. Is Bitcoin going the way of the dodo when it comes to actually using it for payments?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
It is.
We've got some really interesting sources for you today. We have a Cointelegraph magazine article called "Bitcoin Payments Are Being Undermined by Centralized Stablecoins." We also have some research from the U.S. Federal Reserve and Coinbase on crypto transaction volumes.
Nice.
And then we'll be sprinkling in some expert opinion
Oh.
from all over the crypto world. Now, you've probably all heard of Bitcoin, but are you aware of just how much stablecoins are changing the landscape of digital payments?
Yeah, well, the Cointelegraph article kicks off with this, it's almost ironic, story about the Century Club in London.
Okay.
It's a private members club, and they installed Bitcoin payment terminals.
Oh, very fancy.
Right. Sounds cutting edge, but Tony Pierce, who's a member of the club, he's also the CEO of a Web3 company called Reality Plus Fell. He observed that while the name recognition is there for Bitcoin, people are actually using stablecoins to make payments.
So it's almost like a novelty then.
Right.
They're like, yeah, we take Bitcoin, but behind the scenes,
But we
prefer.
This is the stablecoins.
Exactly, yeah. And the numbers back this up. Coinbase data shows stablecoins settled $10.8 trillion, that's with a T, in transactions in 2023, a 17% jump year on year. Compare that to Bitcoin's $8.4 trillion, and it starts to paint a picture.
Wow, so stablecoins are moving serious money. But what about when it comes to like day-to-day buy and sell? Are people actually using crypto at the checkout?
Well, Chainalysis found less than 2% of Bitcoin transactions in 2023 were for actual purchases.
Wow.
On the other hand, Visa estimates a whopping $2.5 trillion in stablecoin payments in the year leading up to June 2024, a tenfold increase from 2020.
Wow, so stablecoin payments have blown past PayPal's volume and are nipping at the heels of MasterCard.
It seems like stablecoins are very similar to why people use Venmo. It's just that ease of use and speed.
Right.
Is that convenience worth sacrificing the decentralization Bitcoin offers, though?
Yeah, that's the key question. So part of the reason for stablecoins' popularity is, of course, their price stability. They're usually pegged to a fiat currency like the US dollar.
Right.
So merchants and customers don't have to worry about the roller coaster ride of Bitcoin's price swings.
Yeah, no one wants to buy a pizza and find out later they accidentally spent a week's worth of groceries because Bitcoin decided to
Yeah, take a dip.
take a dip, yeah.
Exactly, precisely. Plus, many stablecoins operate on efficient blockchain networks like Ethereum Layer 2s, BNB Smart Chain, Tron, and Solana. These networks offer lower transaction costs and faster confirmation times compared to Bitcoin, making them a more practical choice for those everyday transactions.
And I imagine user friendliness plays a big part too, right? Like these days, people want simple and intuitive.
Absolutely. You've got stablecoin wallets integrated into popular fintech apps, making it super easy to buy, sell, and spend, often right alongside traditional currencies.
Right.
So it's that frictionless experience that's driving that mainstream adoption.
But the Cointelegraph article does point out some potential drawbacks.
Right.
Specifically the issue of centralization. Is that a cause for concern?
It's a valid point. So the two leading stablecoins, USDC and USDT, are issued by centralized companies, Circle and Tether.
Okay.
They hold reserves of US dollars to back their tokens, but those tokens can be frozen at the behest of authorities.
Oh, wow.
It boils down to a trade-off: convenience and stability versus the decentralized ethos that Bitcoin embodies.
Right. Okay. So stablecoins seem to be winning the payments race for now, but let's switch gears and talk about Bitcoin's struggles in this arena. Why is it lagging behind?
Well, as we've touched upon, the price volatility is a major obstacle. Businesses and consumers hesitate to use something that fluctuates so dramatically in value.
Yeah.
Add to that the fact that transaction fees on the main Bitcoin network can be quite high, particularly when the network is congested, and it starts to become clear.
Right, and let's not forget the slower transaction times. With an average block time of 10 minutes, Bitcoin isn't exactly ideal for those I need it now payments.
You're right. The article highlights that Bitcoin's reputation as a payment method has taken a hit because of these factors. However, there are some interesting developments underway to tackle these limitations and make Bitcoin a more viable payment option.
You're talking about the Lightning Network, right?
Exactly.
That layer 2 solution that promises faster and cheaper transactions.
Exactly. The Lightning Network, essentially creates payment channels off the main Bitcoin blockchain, enabling near-instant transactions with minimal fees.
So companies like Strike and Cash App are already using the Lightning Network for things like remittances and micropayments. And CoinGate's data shows a steady rise in Bitcoin payments made through Lightning, almost 6% in 2022, nearly 8% in 2023, and over 14% so far in 2024. Looks like it's gaining traction.
It is, but mainstream adoption is still a way off.
Yeah.
The technology can be a bit daunting for the average user.
The article did mention a company called Lightspark that's working to simplify the Lightning Network.
Right.
If Lightspark succeeds, imagine paying for your morning coffee with Satoshis instantly without worrying about Bitcoin's price swings. That's the promise, but is it realistic?
Lightspark's work is promising, but challenges remain. Retail users might still find the setup and usage a bit complicated. And let's not forget, Bitcoin's inherent volatility is still a factor.
It's a gamble for merchants, right? Accepting Bitcoin via Lightning could mean ending up with less than they bargained for if Bitcoin's price takes a tumble.
Yeah.
The UK-based crypto influencer Johnny Fry makes this point in the article, arguing that this volatility makes Bitcoin less suitable for payments in many cases.
But it's worth noting that Bitcoin does offer some advantages, especially in specific situations.
Like what? When would Bitcoin be a better choice?
Well, Claire Cummings, a managing partner at a London-based crypto advisory firm, points out that Bitcoin's unregulated status could be a plus. This is especially true in regions where governments are clamping down on stablecoins.
Oh, okay.
In the UK, for example, the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, sees Bitcoin as an unregulated asset, while stablecoins are facing increasing scrutiny and regulations.
So in places where regulators are tightening the reins on stablecoins, Bitcoin's decentralized nature and lack of a central issuer could make it more appealing for payments, even with the volatility. It's all about weighing the trade-off.
Precisely. It depends on the context and the specific needs of the users.
Hmm.
Now, the Cointelegraph article also touches upon El Salvador's experience adopting Bitcoin as legal tender.
Right.
Adoption has been slower than anticipated due to various hurdles, which reminds us that even with the best intentions, making Bitcoin a national currency is no walk in the park.
Definitely a cautionary tale. Speaking of Bitcoin's evolution, Jason Myers, the founder of Audit Chain Labs, argues that Bitcoin has shifted from primarily a medium of exchange to a store of value, especially after the approval of Bitcoin ETFs in early 2024.
Right.
His point is that people are less inclined to spend Bitcoin if they believe its value will keep going up. It's more like digital gold now, not digital cash. But where does that leave Bitcoin's future in payments?
That's the million-dollar question. The Cointelegraph article presents a couple of contrasting perspectives on this. Roshi Sharma, a lawyer specializing in blockchain and crypto, believes Bitcoin and stablecoins can coexist and even complement each other. She sees stablecoins as a gateway to Bitcoin. People might start with stablecoins for their familiarity and ease of use, then transition to Bitcoin for its store of value properties or other use cases as they get more comfortable with the crypto world.
Interesting. But then you have Rajesh Sinha, the founder of LaunchNotes, who takes a very different stance. He's what you might call a Bitcoin maximalist, right?
He's indeed.
Sinha dismisses stablecoins as mere imitations of fiat currency, arguing they inherit all the problems of traditional money, like inflation and debasement. He's convinced that Bitcoin, with its fixed supply and decentralized nature, is the superior asset, a true store of value, and a hedge against monetary instability.
Right.
So you have these two opposing views, one where Bitcoin and stablecoins coexist, maybe even work together, and another where Bitcoin reigns supreme, with stablecoins relegated to a temporary role at best. Where does this leave us? What does the future hold for Bitcoin and stablecoins in the payments landscape?
That's a question we'll explore further in the next part of our deep dive. We'll examine the factors that could drive adoption, the challenges they face, and the potential implications for the global financial system. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of crypto payments.
So it's fascinating to see how Bitcoin, with its decentralized nature, and stablecoins, focused on practicality, are both vying for dominance in the digital payments arena.
It really highlights the dynamic and innovative nature of the crypto space.
Exactly. So let's put on our futurist hats here
Okay.
and explore some potential scenarios for Bitcoin and stablecoin payments.
Okay.
What could drive their adoption in the years to come?
Well, when it comes to Bitcoin, the success of Layer 2 solutions like the Lightning Network is crucial.
As we discussed earlier, the Lightning Network addresses Bitcoin's scalability issues, allowing for faster and cheaper transactions.
Right.
But can it really live up to the hype?
Well, if the Lightning Network can overcome its usability hurdles and achieve widespread adoption, it could significantly boost Bitcoin's appeal as a payment method. Imagine a world where you can send tiny fractions of a Bitcoin,
Right.
those Satoshis we talked about, instantly and for next to nothing.
That would be revolutionary. Micropayments, tipping online creators, even machine-to-machine payments, the possibilities are kind of endless. But what about Bitcoin's volatility? That's still a major concern for a lot of people.
You're right, volatility is a hurdle. But there are some potential solutions on the horizon, like stablecoin collateralized Bitcoin. It's essentially a way to mint a synthetic Bitcoin pegged to the US dollar using stablecoins as collateral. You get the benefits of Bitcoin's decentralization and security combined with the stability of a stablecoin.
So you're saying it's like having your cake and eating it too?
In theory, yes. But it's still early days for these solutions, and questions remain about their scalability and long-term viability.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've talked about what could drive Bitcoin adoption. What about stablecoins? What could push them further into the mainstream?
Convenience is a huge factor. As we mentioned before, stablecoins are incredibly easy to use, especially when integrated into those fintech apps people already have.
Right.
If this trend continues with more businesses and platforms accepting stablecoin payments, it could create a snowball effect.
So how could regulation shape the future of stablecoin payments?
That's a big one. Right now, the regulatory landscape for stablecoins is a bit of a mixed bag. Different countries are taking different approaches, from a wait-and-see stance to outright bans.
We've also seen some pushback against centralized stablecoins like USDC and USDT, right?
Absolutely. There are concerns about transparency, the makeup of their reserves, and the potential for censorship.
So if governments crack down on centralized stablecoins, could that pave the way for decentralized alternatives?
It's possible. We're already seeing the emergence of algorithmic stablecoins, which aim to maintain price stability through complex algorithms instead of relying on centralized reserves.
That sounds intriguing, but also a bit risky. Algorithms can be unpredictable, right?
That's true. Algorithmic stablecoins are still in the experimental phase, and there have been some high-profile failures, but they represent an interesting avenue of innovation in the stablecoin space. If they can prove their stability and security, they might play a more prominent role down the line.
Okay. So we've covered technological advancements and regulatory developments, but what about the broader economic context? Right.
How could that affect the adoption of Bitcoin and stablecoin payments?
That's a crucial factor to consider. In times of economic uncertainty or high inflation, people often look for alternative forms of money that they perceive as more stable or less susceptible to government control.
Right.
This could fuel demand for both Bitcoin and stablecoins.
Especially in countries with unstable currencies or limited access to traditional banking.
Exactly. We've already seen this to some degree in places like Venezuela and Argentina, where cryptocurrencies have gained traction as a way to hedge against hyperinflation or currency devaluation.
So in a way, economic instability could actually accelerate crypto adoption, both for Bitcoin as a store of value and stable coins for their practicality as a payment method.
That's certainly a possibility. Of course, we have to remember that cryptocurrencies are still a relatively new and volatile asset class. Their value can fluctuate significantly, and there are risks involved.
Right.
But their potential to disrupt traditional financial systems and provide alternative solutions is undeniable. It's definitely a fascinating space to watch. The Cointelegraph article wraps up with a thought-provoking quote from Rajesh Singha,
Right.
the Bitcoin maximalist we discussed earlier. He says, Bitcoin stands apart due to its mathematically capped supply, positioning it as a supreme, powerful store of value that surpasses stablecoins, gold, and other assets. What are your thoughts on that statement?
Well, Sin's statement echoes a core belief among many Bitcoin proponents, the idea of Bitcoin as digital gold.
Right.
They argue that Bitcoin's limited supply of 21 million coins makes it a scarce and valuable asset much like gold. They see it as a hedge against inflation and a safe haven during economic turmoil.
But doesn't that contradict the idea of Bitcoin as a payment method?
Yeah.
If people believe Bitcoin's value will only go up, why would they spend it? Wouldn't they hold on to it as an investment?
That's a good point. It highlights one of the inherent tensions within the Bitcoin community, the debate between Bitcoin as a store of value versus Bitcoin as a medium of exchange.
So are those two goals ultimately incompatible? Can Bitcoin be both digital gold and digital cash?
That's the big question. And the answer might depend on how Bitcoin evolves, how the Lightning Network develops, and how people's perception of its value changes over time.
It's like we're witnessing the birth of a new form of money, and we're still figuring out its role in the world.
Right.
It's clear that both Bitcoin and stablecoins are pushing the boundaries of what's possible with digital payments.
Absolutely. They're challenging the status quo and forcing us to rethink how we think about money and value.
It's an exciting time to be following this space, that's for sure. But before we get too carried away with predictions, let's take a step back and examine some of the challenges that both Bitcoin and stablecoins face. Are there any potential roadblocks that could hinder their progress?
There are definitely some hurdles to overcome. For Bitcoin, scalability remains a key concern, even with the Lightning Network.
Right, the Lightning Network is still relatively complex for everyday users, and even if it becomes more user-friendly, there's the question of whether it can handle the volume of transactions needed for mainstream adoption.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of volatility, which we've discussed at length.
And for stablecoins, regulatory uncertainty is a major challenge.
Absolutely. Governments worldwide are still trying to figure out how to regulate stablecoins, and this lack of clear guidelines creates uncertainty for businesses and investors.
And we can't forget those concerns about centralization, particularly with USDC and USD2.
Right. The potential for censorship and the lack of transparency regarding their reserves are issues that need to be addressed if stablecoins are to gain widespread trust and adoption.
So both Bitcoin and stablecoins have their work cut out for them.
They do. But that's what makes this space so dynamic and interesting. It's a constant process of innovation, adaptation, and overcoming challenges.
And let's not forget the human element. Ultimately, the success of both Bitcoin and stablecoins hinges on people's willingness to use them. It's about changing habits, building trust, and demonstrating their value.
That's a crucial point. Technology can only take us so far. It's the human factor, our beliefs, our needs, and our choices that will ultimately determine the fate of these technologies.
So we've explored potential drivers, examined some challenges, and pondered the big picture implications. Now let's shift our focus to the most important person in this equation, you, our listener. What does all of this mean for you?
Right.
How could these developments in crypto payments potentially impact your life?
That's a great question. And it's one we'll explore in the final part of our deep dives. We'll look at the potential benefits and risks of using Bitcoin and stablecoins for everyday payments and discuss some key considerations for navigating this rapidly evolving landscape. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the world of crypto payments.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the rise of stablecoins to the hurdles Bitcoin faces, and even peeked into the future of digital payments.
And now let's bring it all home
Yeah.
and focus on what this means for you. So let's get practical. How could these developments in crypto payments actually affect your daily life?
Well, imagine a world where you can send money across borders without the headaches of traditional banks and their hefty fees.
That would be a game changer, especially for folks who depend on remittances to support family overseas.
Exactly. Crypto payments, especially stablecoin transfers, offer a faster, cheaper, and more transparent way to send money internationally.
And it's not just about international transfers. We could see a surge in micropayments, which would open up all sorts of new business models and ways to monetize digital content.
Think about paying a few cents to read an article online, or tipping your favorite content creator directly, with no middleman taking a cut.
Yeah, that creates so many possibilities for artists, musicians, and anyone creating content online. I mean, even just hearing about this, I'm thinking about ways I support creators.
Right.
It's a whole new level of direct engagement.
Absolutely. And as the technology evolves, we could even see crypto payments integrated into our everyday purchases, both online and in physical stores.
So paying for groceries with Bitcoin or grabbing coffee using stablecoins could become the norm.
That's the vision many crypto enthusiasts have, cryptocurrency woven into the fabric of our financial lives.
But, let's be realistic. There are still some hurdles to overcome. What are the key things to consider for someone thinking about using Bitcoin or stablecoins for payments?
Well, first and foremost, you have to understand the risks involved. Cryptocurrencies are still a relatively new and volatile asset class.
Right. Their value can swing dramatically, so it's crucial to only invest or spend what you can afford to lose. I mean, you wouldn't bet your rent money on a horse race, right?
Exactly. And security is paramount.
Right.
Cryptocurrency transactions are irreversible, so it's essential to choose trustworthy wallets and exchanges and take steps to safeguard your private keys.
It's like having a digital Fort Knox for your crypto.
Right.
You want to make sure it's impenetrable.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about taxes. Depending on where you live, cryptocurrency transactions could be subject to capital gains taxes.
So it's crucial to do your research and maybe even consult with a tax professional to make sure you're playing by the rules.
Yeah. And beyond the financial considerations, it's also important to think about the ethical and environmental impact of using crypto for payments.
That's a good point. Some cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin, have drawn criticism for their high energy consumption.
Right. The process of mining Bitcoin uses a significant amount of electricity, which can have environmental consequences.
Right.
So it's important to be aware of these issues and choose cryptocurrencies that align with your values. If you're passionate about sustainability, you might want to explore more energy-efficient options.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's also about being a conscious consumer and understanding the broader impact of your choices.
Exactly. And as with any new technology, a healthy dose of skepticism and caution is always a good idea.
Yeah, don't fall for hype or blindly trust everything you read online.
Right.
Do your own research before making any decisions.
Definitely.
After all, this is your money we're talking about.
And remember, the crypto world is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
New technologies, regulations, and trends are popping up all the time.
Oh, it's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Right.
So how can someone stay on top of it all?
Well, it's all about staying informed, curious, and engaged. Follow reputable sources, join online communities, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
The more you learn, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this exciting, ever-changing world. So to wrap things up, what's the key takeaway from our deep dive into crypto payments?
The biggest takeaway is this. The world of money is transforming right before our eyes. Traditional financial systems are facing challenges from innovative technologies like Bitcoin and stablecoins.
And while the future is still uncertain, one thing's for sure, crypto payments are here to stay. They're not just a fad.
They offer a glimpse into a future of faster, cheaper, and more transparent financial transactions. A future where more people have access to financial services and the power of money is distributed more fairly.
It's a future worth exploring, understanding, and shaping. And with that, we'll leave you to consider the possibilities.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of crypto payments. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
Goodbye.